I'm Connor Rold, and welcome to another episode of Masters of Controlled Chaos. My name is Connor Rold, and today we're going to be looking at an incredibly calculating director, an incredibly thrilling director, and one of the great directors that we're alive to see him really in his prime and still continuing that, and his name is David Fincher. If you're new to the series, my name is Connor Rold. Essentially every week I break down a new film director and explain to you guys why he is great, why I consider him great, or he or she great. And also, I say their best movie, what I think is their best movie, and then also my favorite movie of theirs. We'll also talk about sort of their entire catalog. It's definitely easier with someone like David Fincher, who I have all his Blu-rays stacked up here. I actually got my David Fincher shirt on. You can see all the title credits he's directed by. He's only done about, I think, like 8 movies yeah, 8 movies. And then Aliens 3 would be 9, but he doesn't really count it as his movie, so neither do I. This is a really difficult episode for me because I know what makes David Fincher sort of interesting, but really it was choosing the movies because he has so many great movies and so many of my favorite movies. It was really hard for me to pick, and as you can tell, I sort of dressed out in the trench coat, sort of hat, like Morgan Freeman from the Seven movie, that typical sort of detective style. What a great movie that was, and really a great, I would say not a debut feature, but sort of a debut feature for him. And when I think of David Fincher, I really think of one word, or really multiple words, like I do with different directors, and those 2 words are engaging and enthralling. You know, Hitchcock, he was the master of suspense. Well, David Fincher, he's the modern master of suspense. He uses Hitchcock's techniques, and he's heavily inspired by that, obviously, and he's really created the modern thriller and sort of the standard for thrillers. Why I love him so much is because I love the thriller genre, because I'm not really a horror guy. I don't watch really any horror movies, but thrillers I'll watch and get engaged, and that's sort of where I get my horror fix in a sense. And whenever I watch a David Fincher thriller, he just raises the bar so high. It's an incredible, I would never see that coming because he is so calculated and because he has such a great vision of the entire sort of movie. And when I'm talking about this, I mean, I watched something like 10 Cloverfield Lane, and I'm like, oh wow, that's a good movie. I've seen the thrilling techniques before. I know that what's going to happen is not actually going to happen. The moments that you want to feel tense, I didn't feel tense, and I actually have some problems with that. Same with Split recently. I still enjoy these movies because I am a fan of the thriller genre, but out of all the genres, maybe comedy, but I'm very particular about my thrillers, mostly because I've watched David Fincher's movies, I've studied them, and I'm really a huge fan of them, and how much effort he puts into it, and sort of creative passion and love, and how everyone sort of comes together to make these amazing movies. I'm just a big fan of him, and for him to be able to do it, I almost put that expectations on a lot of people, even though I know that's a little bit unfair. But going back to why he is great, he is thrilling. He's done a lot of his movies have been in the thriller genre, and he just knows those beats to hit and the pacing to hit to make a proper thriller, so that you are on the edge of your seat the entire time, waiting for something to happen, and you have some moments of levity, which are crucial for thrillers, where you have that sort of breathe, I can relax for a little bit. But I'm still a little bit antsy, I'm still a little bit there. And it's not necessarily horror where they use cheap jump scares and stuff like that. It's definitely, these movies have a sense of something like The Witch from last year, a great movie, where it's not really a bunch of jump scares or anything, it's just like this tone that something's bad's happening, something's not right, you don't know what's going to go wrong. There's in his movies, a lot of them, there's twists in terms of, oh, you think it's going to be one way, and then it's going to be another way, and you're jumping back and forth, and I love the thriller genre because I'm so engaged in the movie. I'm always so engaged with him. And David Fincher, I mean, he is probably the best in that. And another thing that I want to point out is because he's great at the thriller genre, he doesn't do a lot of set pieces. Some other directors can rely on big action set pieces or climaxes or whatnot. And a lot of his climaxes and set pieces, especially just something like Zodiac, is just a bunch of people talking in a room. Or even Seven, there's the end of it is very much a climax of the movie. Right, between the show off between Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and Kevin Spacey, and you don't know what's going to happen. But a lot of it is conversations, and he really makes these things that really, if you think about it, every director has to have a conversation scene in a movie where 2 people are just sitting, and they either do a reverse shot, or they do over the shoulder sort of style. And David Fincher makes it so dynamic, and I think a lot of this has to do with his particularness. He's a perfectionist. He does the most takes averaging from any director I've ever heard of. Most people do like 5 or 6. He can do up to 40, 50, 60, and the most he's ever done was 99 on The Social Network. Not the highest, but still 99. And he said he didn't want to go to 100 because he didn't want to break triple digits. But and that 99 scene from The Social Network was the opening scene, the great opening scene, where Jesse Eisenberg and Rooney Mara are just talking back and forth, and it has exposition hidden into that, which he's so great at. It just seems like a regular conversation, but there's exposition hidden in that she would take on later that really shapes Mark Zuckerberg's life from that opening scene. And it was just two people talking in a bar, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. And you can look at great analysis on the internet. I love Boring Order, especially The Social Network. There's a lot of analysis in terms of using close-up perfectly. I think David Fincher does that in a lot of his movies, is using close-ups very intimately so that this is important. Something that Martin Scorsese does in Taxi Driver, where he really uses close-ups well because it tells the audience, this is important, you should focus on this. Or really you want a line of dialogue to really impact you. And that's why I think The Social Network, for example, really worked that well, because you have Aaron Sorkin's great dialogue, but then you have David Fincher, a guy who knows how to direct conversations and know how to change power dynamics in one shot and how to create emotions. And even in The Social Network, he cuts to an empty chair, and you know exactly what that means. And he uses that technique. He used that technique a little before in 2008 with The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. But I think what I really like him is that in these sort of conversations or styles, he uses a tripod. He's not a fan of handheld cameras like Emmanuel Lubezki, you've seen Alfonso Cuarón's, or Alejandro Inarritu, his films. That's the cinematographer, or Terrence Malick, where it's very much handheld, one take, sort of going through, steady for sure, but still has the sort of real documentary style filmmaking. But he likes non-human operated cameras, so they're showing this tripod like my camera is right now. And he just cuts from back and forth, and his incredible job, it's hard to realize, to make that dynamic. It's very easy to sort of do one take and be like, oh, this is impressive, this is dynamic, I feel what's going on. But to create those cuts, and really, he's a great editor when he works with his editors, to really capture the feel that he's going for, because he is very much a perfectionist. And that's why he does so many takes, is because he really wants to make sure that it's perfect. If it will take 60 takes, he'll just relax in his chair and do 60 takes of a scene, because if it has to take that long, it will take that long. And a lot of directors, there's not a lot of them come back, but someone like Brad Pitt does, and they sort of understand that when you're going to a David Fincher movie, this is what you're going to get. You're going to do 40 takes, 50 takes, and that's where you have to go for the ride, in a sense, and really just keep on doing it and doing it. And Fincher's great at getting performances out of his characters. With it, those takes that he makes, it almost makes it realistic. I know a lot of directors do that, where they do long takes just to sort of tire the actors down, so that they're very much more raw and emotional and to themselves, and can really dive deep into the characters. I know the director of Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, did that. I forget his name right now, but he did a great job at that for Captain Kirk. But in terms of Fincher, I think that he does these shots, but they're so meticulously planned. You can study them, you can analyze them, but that doesn't mean he's focusing on one shot and he doesn't see the bigger picture. He totally sees the bigger picture, and he knows that he can plant almost little Easter eggs or little clues for you to watch again. Because that's what I love about his movies, that they're really rewatchable. You can watch them multiple times and see like, oh, I didn't see this time, and sort of get something new every single time, which is, I know, cliche thing, but really, Fincher's the master of it, if you ask me, in terms of picking up on little details that apply to the final mystery, because this is a mystery story, it's a thriller book, and you don't know what's going on. You just see this one, but that see one way the first time you're watching, but when you watch it again, you realize, oh, I didn't see that. That totally makes sense and ties into the back. So it's almost, he leaves clues and leaves an incentive to rewatch it. Not because you don't understand it, but because you want to see like, oh, how would I see it now with a different perspective? I think he's just a great job at that. And really, there's never a wasted scene. And if he does almost like give you the answers, he's hiding it, but he's hiding it in plain sight. So now let's move over into what I think is his best movie, and that will be Zodiac. I got the movie right here. And what I love about it, and why I think it's his best, is because it's definitely the most David Fincher. And I mean that because this is his first transition from his previous movie, which I believe was Panic Room. Yes, Panic Room. Oh no, I don't have Panic Room. So, okay, I probably end up to be 11 then. Okay, wow, okay, so he's double digits. Oh no, I'm confused now. So he has done 10 movies. Panic Room would be that one. I don't have that one, unfortunately. So almost all his movies. But Panic Room, and then transitioned from film into digital with Zodiac. So allowed him to take a lot more takes. Because of digital, he has a lot more space. He doesn't have to run out of film. And this was a cursing and a blessing, because he took, 50 takes for almost every scene, 40, 50 takes, a lot of takes. That definitely hurts like the actors and whatnot, but it definitely shows off, because in the director's cut of this movie, it is 3 hours. And let me tell you a little story of how I watched it the first time. I actually didn't know about the Zodiac Killer at all. I actually thought it was maybe a made-up story. I didn't even know this was a real thing. I know it's sort of unbelievable to hear, but I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. And when the ending, I'm going to spoil the ending for you, or well, if you don't know the Zodiac Killer sense already, is that he's never been found. So the film transitions from a sort of a study about a man and his family, and then sort of the Zodiac Killer comes and it sweeps the nation, and then he sort of jumps into that and jumps. He's not a journalist, but he jumps into it, or I think he is. He's not like working for them for the San Francisco Chronicle all the time, but he jumps in and really becomes involved with it, and everybody is talking about the Zodiac Killer. There's a great scene of Jake Gyllenhaal's character and his son, and he's trying to change the stations in the radio station, and every station is talking about the Zodiac Killer, and he can't get away with it. He's swept up. And then in the later part of the movie, we see that people the general public just starts losing interest in the Zodiac Killer, and no one can find it, and it's still open. But Jake Gyllenhaal's character, his name's Nate Smith. I forget now, but that's his last name, I believe. And he's still sort of gray. All right, so he's sort of going. I'm trying to remember his name. That's it. It starts to. As the audience starts to lose interest, or the public starts to lose interest, it really becomes more about a character study of Jake Gyllenhaal, and that really goes to the core of the movie, which I think is about an obsession. There's so many themes in this movie, like I said, becomes the general sort of detective thriller, but then turns into a character study about Jake Gyllenhaal's character, an obsession, and just being like almost wasting his life on this one thing where he's so into it and he wants to find the answer, but he can't do it, that he's so oblivious to everything that's changing, which is, I think, a great job of how you have a character like Jake Gyllenhaal that's stagnant and doesn't have a lot of character progression. This thing happens and he just goes down the rabbit hole and keeps on going further and further and can't look up. And while he's going down this rabbit hole, he's losing a sense of time and he's destroying his relationships. His wife, played by Chloe Sevigny, I believe his name, Sevigny, her and the son actually leave him because it's like, what are you doing? You're so obsessed with this, like you totally forget about everything. There's more to life than this, and he doesn't listen. And then we see someone like Robert Downey Jr.'s character, who was a respected journalist, now turn into like this druggy sort of guy in the 70s. And then we see something like Mark Ruffalo, who's very passionate about the case and wants to get it done, and he's very much almost like a young cop, really passionate about finding the guy. And by the end of it, he's sort of a hardened guy, and he has failed a lot, and he says, that's life, and he's sort of hardened by the system. But it's so interesting because our main protagonist, which I think is Jake Gyllenhaal's character, we really see him just sort of stay stagnant as everyone moves away from him. I just think a really interesting dynamic, and Fincher does a masterful job at showing you this and really keeping you going on this journey. And that's why I think actually the runtime actually helps with it, because that's an interesting thing, because it's 3 hours, but it doesn't seem like 3 hours. The regular cut, I think, is like 2.5 hours. This director's cut is 3 hours, but believe me, it doesn't seem like it. It goes by so fast because you're interested in the Zodiac Killer. You want to know who it is. And by the end of it, nobody knows who it is. We have that great basement scene where you're convinced and Jake Gyllenhaal's convinced into thinking, oh, this is the guy. You're in the basement. This is the guy. He's the Zodiac Killer. I'm standing like 10 feet away from him. But he's not, because we've sort of been tricked by Fincher and by Naismith to sort of believe that anybody could be it. And you're riddled with paranoia just like Naismith is, because you spent this 3-hour journey trying to find an answer. And by the end of it, it is not satisfactory, which is what I love about it in a sense. It doesn't give you the ending. Some people knew that the Zodiac Killer's never been found, and they went going into that. They already knew that, but I didn't. So it really hit me and sort of hit me by surprise. It was like, wow, I thought this was made up, and then it turns out it's a real thing. And it actually does what I think Fincher's story and movie really wants you to do, which is become obsessed yourself and really look into it and sort of be like, oh, can I solve this? Would I be spending, what took him like 40 years, maybe it wasn't that long, but like 20-something years to figure this out, and he still couldn't figure it out. And he has an idea who it is, Arthur Lee Allen, but he doesn't have enough conclusive evidence. And really, anybody could be the Zodiac Killer, which is why it's so scary and so thrilling, because it doesn't end in a Dirty Harry style where he shoots the Zodiac Killer and he's dead and everyone's safe. It's like he's still out there, he's still lurking, and like that's sort of almost the reality of the situation. It's incredibly interesting, and I just found that ending really shocking. And probably maybe one of the best of his endings. Definitely not a twist, but still an incredible sort of ending because it just ends. Also, I want to point out Mark Ruffalo would be a great Columbo. If you haven't seen Columbo TV series, a great series, just watch him in this movie and like, I don't know why there's not a Columbo TV series remade. That's one of the remakes I'd actually love to see. And then, yeah, and just like I said, it's just about a guy almost ruining his life for this killer, and it shows how he is so interested in it, and the times change, and I just really think Fincher does a great job because he's able to engage you for a 3-hour thriller that leads you one way and does the most leads and backs and forth, and it's not this witty sort of quippy Aaron Sorkin dialogue, but it really is an incredible character study, even more so I think than The Social Network, which a lot of people consider his best. But I really think it's just a really thrilling movie. Although Social Network is a close second. Let's move into my next movie, which is my favorite movie, which is Fight Club. This was really hard for me to decide, but eventually I went with this because I found it affected me, and I think it affected a lot of people. This was definitely a generational movie, similar to something like Easy Rider, where a lot of people at the time didn't get it. And that happens with, I think, a lot of satire, something like Pain and Gain, a movie I'm really a fan of, and a lot of people my generation are fans of, that wasn't received well. But it still has very much of a cult following in a sense, because some people see the satire in it and some people don't, and it definitely can go over a lot of people's heads. I don't really want to say that, but I don't want to say that the critics didn't get it, but the critics almost didn't understand some of the themes that I was trying to display. And maybe you can say Fincher did a bad job with that, but I thought he did a great job. It has the best twist, which I won't spoil, although it is a twist, that just sums up the movie incredibly well. And what I love about it is it's almost like how society is like hypocrites in a sense. Is that you have people that say like, oh, Tyler Durden, his character, played by Brad Pitt, is the bad guy. You don't want to be like him. But yet he's the most free. He's the most free-willing. It's very much an anti-corporate, anti-consumer movie. I was reading the book Rebels on the Backlot, and they're talking about how Fight Club got made, and no one really knows how it got made, and the studio was so angry that it did, and it didn't make any money at the box office really, but it got a huge support on home video and release and DVD, and still continues that today. They make a lot of money from there. So it's done really well from there. And that's because of spreading the word, because people show it and they're like, wow, that's a freaking awesome movie. I want to see it. And you have that violence that's so anti sort of safe peace in a sense. It's almost like the taboo thing. And some people like Roger Ebert thinks it's like too much violence. I think it does a great job to really emphasize that satire. And just incredible lines of dialogue, like Marla's character, Helena Bonham Carter, says, I haven't been fucked like that since grade school. Just the incredible scenes with the soap scene where Edward Norton's hand is getting burned. And really just the twist in it makes you rethink the entire thing once you watch it again. This is probably the best rewatchability factor for me. And I love it how it shows how Fight Club really goes from anti-corporation and says, we don't want to be like them, we're slaves to them, and we start our own underground thing. But then that underground thing grows and grows and grows to the point where that thing, in a sense, self-runs like a corporation. Everyone has taxes and stuff like that, and there's higher-ups and there's lowers, and they treat them like gods, and it's very interesting. And then, of course, that incredible ending shot, maybe the best ending shot in history, maybe aside from like Modern Times or something like that, of Edward Norton and Helena Bonham Carter's character standing there as the Capitol building, credit card companies, their buildings collapse. And this could only work pre-2001, 9/11, because of what happens with the terrorist attacks there. But I'm glad it did, because I think it was actually the right way to end the movie. And it really comments on society, and it's anti-corporate, and I think it really feels like a character is just like almost lost in the world. He's not a baby boomer. He's in this awkward generational space where he doesn't have nowhere to fit in. He's a boring desk job, and we see that with David Fincher using colors like gray and stuff like that, but then transitioning over to Fight Club into more like using the street lights of that yellow to sort of pop out, in a sense, in that Fight Club, and sort of show the darkness and the light, and how, in a sense, these dark imagery of the fighting and the violence and the blood and whatnot is actually sort of emphasized with a lot of light. And it's almost like, oh, this is a good thing. He enjoys this sort of stuff, compared to the scenes in The Office, which are very gray and very dull and very pastel. And we see that, oh, he doesn't enjoy this, even though this is sort of the safe, what we should do, versus the what we shouldn't do. but maybe they should be reversed. It's very interesting sort of commentary. This is probably the best satire, in my opinion, since Dr. Strangelove. It's an incredible job of doing that. And probably Brad Pitt, I would say this is his best performance for me. I'm also a big fan of Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Edward Norton, I'm a big fan of him in general, but he's done American History X and Rounders and Primal Fear. He's a great actor in Birdman, but he's really great in this as well. That's at 7, another close pick for my favorite, could have been my favorite. Oh, and also going back to Zodiac now that I think about it, going back to the digital thing, I did mention how this is very much his style in a sense, these sort of dark colors in a sense. Fight Club and 7 were, he doesn't have a very distinct visual style, but with Zodiac, we see that style continue with Zodiac, to Social Network, to Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, to Gone Girl, and probably with his next movie, which is Enslaved right now, but sort of had a darker tone in a sense of having the very, almost like it's raining in a sense, like the beginning of 7, if you would describe anything. And he's really created that visual style with Zodiac, which is why I think it's his best, because it created that visual style that he's sort of been developing. And then 7, what a great ending. Kevin Spacey, a great performance. I've got the Morgan Freeman outfit right now because it's a classic detective tale, super creative, super great idea. The Game, super underrated movie. Michael Douglas is incredible. Another typical thriller on the edge of your seat with an awesome ending as well. Not his best thriller, but that's saying a lot though, because it's still a great movie because he's got some of the best thrillers of all time. Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I know a lot of people don't have that. This is actually the Criterion Collection version of it. And I'm a really big fan of Curious Case of Benjamin Button, just because I think it has a hell of a lot of emotion. It's very much an Oscar-y film, but I like the Oscars. I sort of like those movies in a sense, and I feel it has a lot of emotion, great visual effects, and a really solid story that you really want to connect with the characters. And that's really done by Brad Pitt, which might be his best performance. I'm a really big fan of Curious Case of Benjamin Button, especially Brad Pitt's performance. Another Social Network here, it's sort of in a case like this, which is a great tagline. You don't get 500 million friends without making a few enemies. One of the great movie taglines, in my opinion, and really just a great movie. It should have won Best Picture that year. Aaron Sorkin's dialogue is incredible. Jesse Eisenberg's character is awesome. The way the story is told is unique and exciting, and see sort of this rise of, you hear about the movies like, oh, the guy about Facebook, oh, that's sort of lame, but once you see the movie, it's really awesome. And The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, wasn't a huge fan of this, but still very, very disturbing. And then Gone Girl, another awesome movie that I think would go down in some of the best David Fincher movies because of Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck, and the way it twists and turns and how you don't know what's going on, and then incredible adapted screenplay from Gillian Flynn, the author of the book, and adapts the screenplay so well, really a great job. Anyways guys, for all those reasons, that's why David Fincher is a master of controlled chaos. I'm Connor Roll. Like the video, comment below, let me know what your favorite David Fincher movie is, subscribe to the channel, favorite the video, all that good stuff, and until next time, stay tuned.